Ladies and gentlemen, another tier list is coming live to your eyeballs right now with the MFF 9.3.5 update featuring Cable, Strife, Domino, Omega Red, Black Panther, Shuri, as well as some changes. Now, before we get into the characters themselves, I do want to cover the question that I asked you guys from last tier list in August, what to do with the Dormammu GBR tag. So I decided to update it as per one of the better recommendations that I had and suggestions in the comments to only reflect non-tier 4s. So you'll see that I've deleted it from a lot of characters, but the characters that I've left it on are either only tier 3able, like Makari, Kamala Khan, Doctor Strange, or if you see them on a character like Hulk or Venom or Ant-Man, it's referring to the character only at tier 3 level 80, like Sharon Rogers. Now, the list is not perfect by any means. I certainly may be missing some characters, but for example, Jean Grey, not the greatest at GBR until she gets to tier 4. She can certainly do it at tier 3, but she's very slow because she needs the tier 4 accumulation. Same thing with Black Bolt. He can do it at tier 3, but he's very slow compared to some of these other characters because he needs that additional damage from actually maybe it's from his tier 3. No, it's from his tier 4 skill. I thought it was from his tier 3 skill. No, it's from his tier 4. He needs that final damage that really makes him pop off. So I think it was at tier 4 with 0 pierce he could solo it. But anyways, that's a whole other situation that we're not going to get into. So yeah, that's the update for the little devil emoji that we have there. Hit me up in the comments if you have more suggestions on this, or if you have a couple of characters and you have evidence that you'd like to see them added to this list. Now, as far as the new characters that have gotten changed, a couple of things here. I moved Gambit and Moonstone over to out of the meta, needs rework. I'm probably going to start moving some other of these low tier borderline characters like Rogue, Corvus, Gwenpool, Gilgamesh, etc., Maker, Mr. Fantastic. There's nothing really to read into it about Gambit and Moonstone specifically. They're certainly not at the bottom of the characters that I just mentioned in terms of value. They're just ones that I needed to make space for in order to move around some more blast types. And then for Omega Red being over here in free-to-play gods, you're probably wondering why, because he's a paywall character. Well, you can get him for free, just like you could have gotten Spot for free. I'm considering just getting rid of the free-to-play gods category altogether. I really like these characters because, as I've mentioned before in their individual reviews, they don't need uniforms to be good, but it is very confusing because 3 of them are clearly free-to-play Bioselector, and then 2 of them are, depending on when you play the game and if you joined at the right time or not, they could be free or they could be paywall. So yeah, I don't know what to do exactly with these characters. I'm throwing it back to you guys and seeing if you have any good ideas. We moved Iceman down to borderline. We moved Enchantress down from meta god to lead support because, let's be real, she's just a lead support, although a very good one. Most people are not using her for damage. I moved Chasm over to lead support. Same idea as Enchantress. Nothing, more there. We should unbolt Angela. That was from last update. And then we moved Sentry and Doctor Doom up. We moved Scarlet Witch down from meta gods because she's basically only good for as a tier 3 GBR, but also that 1 day or 2 days of ABX, or 1 day of ABX, 1day of ABL, depending on your Jean Grey and how she's built. But for Kang and Doctor Doom and Sentry, they're being bolstered by the relevance of them, of those characters in Otherworld Battle when other characters are banned. And you sort of have to reach into the tier 3 meta, the old meta, to try to find some solutions to the problems. So that's basically how it shakes out for the existing characters. Now let's get into the new characters. So we got this update for Domino, Strife, Cable, and Omega Red. We already talked about Omega Red here. Domino, meta-ish, I would say, probably right along the lines of like a Makari, Kamala Khan, quite a bit worse offensively, but much better defensively for something like PvP, or like not necessarily defensively, but something more PvP oriented. A solid character for sure, but there's just not a lot of value these days for tier 3 PvP characters. They have to be very, very, very good, which we'll talk about Strife in a second and why he is that. And Domino is not quite there, so that's why she lands in meta-ish. But you can still build her solidly for PvP, but she certainly does need a max build. She needs enough HP so she can pop off her 3rd skill counter multiple times. This sounds like so many almost meta PvP characters who have an amazing counter skill, but then just don't have enough defenses, don't have enough HP to make it work. And that's essentially where Domino finds herself. If the meta were to shift dramatically enough to have tons of blast types running around unchecked, then sure, Domino's value would rise. Strife, on the other hand, finds himself at the bottom of meta gods, shoulder to shoulder with tier 4s like Professor X, Storm, Iron Man, and Blue Dragon. The reason why he is here is because of how amazing he is for PvP and how he essentially replaces Wasp. And this is a big deal here because Wasp was the only character until now that had the debuff passive, which works for Otherworld Battle, works for Battle World, etc. Now Strife has it as well. So super valuable character, one of the most valuable for PvP, I would say. Also has a good leadership with all 50% all defense, so you can use him as a leadership for things like Timeline Battle and Alliance Tournament when characters like Jean are banned. Very, very powerful PvP character, and certainly not bad for PvE. Certainly not bad for PvE. Ideally, you want to stack a lot of damage reduction on him with something like a Brilliant Authority or a Mighty Conquest if you can. But Strife combines a lot of the, good abilities with unfortunately the need for a max build. Now that I'm thinking about it, for Strife, you also need the artifact. You absolutely need the artifact because it gives him healing over time, just like Adam Warlock, like Wolverine's passive, etc. So yeah, does need a max build. The artifact is crucial to making him work in PvP, but if you can line those ducks up, he can become quite formidable, and one day when he gets a tier 4, it's going to be very scary. Thanos is here with Gore. I don't know why. I don't know why he's there with Gore. I'm going to unbold him there. Yeah, he's meta god. It makes sense. A little bit more value with PvP lately for Otherworld Battle because all of the metas are banned, but that's kind of neither here nor there. And then we go over to Cable. For now, I've put him at the bottom of meta dominating. He is the best now for that ABL Blast Hero muted stage. He beats Storm. He beats Professor X by quite a bit in terms of score. He's also very strong at tier 3 and tier 380 and tier 4 for things like World Boss Legend. Not the best for... I can't remember how good he is for GBR, to be honest with you. I don't think I was really blown away by his performance in GBR, but I'll double check that. But yeah, pretty solid character. Also kind of leading towards needing a max build on Cable. It's been kind of an annoying update. He kind of needs his artifact to really pop off for most content. Not all content, but I think this is kind of a reasonable place to put him. I kind of think he's better than Star-Lord. Let's be honest. Like, I kind of think he is better than Star-Lord. He can do the same stage that Star-Lord could do with less of, with less of a build that Star-Lord can. So I'm kind of tempted to put him here, but hit me up in the comments if you think this should change. Also, I moved Sharon down and moved Magneto up just because, ABX and ABL do factor into the value here. And thus we come to Black Panther and Shuri in the latest mid-month update along with Omega Red Tier 3. Now, in my opinion, Omega Red hasn't really changed much. He's very strong for a Tier 3. I think he's actually fantastic. I do want to test him in GBR to maybe give him this tag later, but I'm not really sure where to put him. I guess you could argue he's meta-ish along with some of these Tier 3 characters. But again, I do want to highlight his value that extends beyond because he doesn't need a uniform, and he certainly doesn't need like a uniform that's seasonal, for example, like Kingpin. Black Panther and Shuri, on the other hand, Shuri doesn't move the needle at all. She remains in the exact same position that she was in before as a meta god. She does gain the strong leadership tag because of her new leadership, 35% attack. But unfortunately, this uniform didn't do enough for her to really make any sort of meaningful change. I think she's still a fantastic support character. She has a little bit more damage now. She has cooler animations than before if you don't like explosions, I guess, because her old tracksuit uniform had explosions, the new one doesn't. The Wakanda Forever stuff is nice, but it does feel very cosmetic. It does feel very, very just, aesthetic and on the surface, and doesn't really improve the character in a meaningful way that you're going to notice. So yeah, her value and rank doesn't move at all for the meta, in my opinion. And then for Black Panther, huge upgrade. It's tough. This one's tough for Black Panther because it's a huge upgrade for him. It's the best he's ever been, even at tier 3, right? It's a massive upgrade. You don't need him at tier 4 for him to be solid. He has a bit of survivability issues, but it's basically because he can go to such high stages of World Boss Legend that he has survivability issues. That's kind of to be expected of almost any character not named Hulk. The thing with Black Panther is some players are disappointed because he doesn't seem to be crushing Moon Knight's scores for ABX and ABL. He seems to be about on par with Moon Knight. Some people get a little bit higher scores, some people get a little bit lower scores, but it doesn't appear to be a clear-cut upgrade, and that is what is holding players back from really declaring Black Panther like the new combat hero meta. It's a bit disappointing, to be honest, because Moon Knight has been here for over a year, holding on like Storm to just one piece of content like Scarlet Witch, and it's a bit frustrating to see so many replacements in other categories, like in other days. You know, you had Black Widow, then you had Shadow Shell, then you had Gamora, then you had Spider-Gwen, then you had Luna. You had like 5 metas in the span of about 7 or 8 months versus 1 meta in the span of about 14 months. It's a stark contrast, and not to say that we need, you know, that rapid of a replacement. It was sort of too much with the speed types, but it's actually been too slow with the combat types. And for players who don't like playing as Moon Knight, who are bored of playing as Moon Knight, etc., they've sort of had to just grin and bear it for the time being. This isn't really a review of Black Panther's value, but it's just more explaining why people are disappointed with Black Panther, because he was sort of the chosen one to sort of clearly replace all other combat metas, for PvE at least, because he clearly doesn't have PvP value like Carnage, Hulk, Wolverine, and then to a lesser extent Captain America, and then to a much lesser extent Venom. But yeah, he doesn't seem to move the needle there. He's not going to compete with Dr. Octopus and Namor, who are villains, so he really only had Moon Knight to compete with, and it seems like they're sort of deadlocked. Again, a little bit higher, a little bit lower, but not really anything to write home about. But still an amazing rework for Black Panther. So where he fits in the meta is somewhere there, and sort of the comparison to Moon Knight is what explains his place in the meta. But as far as just what they did for him, it's fantastic. I mean, even if they don't buff him to be better than Moon Knight for ABX and ABL, I think he's amazing. Really, really strong character, fun to play, cool animations, can be proc friendly, but also does so much damage and works so well with a rage. It's almost shockingly good. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with how the tier list is shaking out here. Hit me up in the comments down below. Let me know if you have some thoughts on this and where you think characters should go. Thank you so much for watching. Remember, it's just my opinion. Smash the like button, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.